still got some sprint stuff up. Let me take the sprint stuff down while we are getting started here. So, welcome. If you don't know me, if you ain't, I mean, it's been around since I've been around, hasn't it? I'm Dr. Devon Morris. I am going to be your guide on this journey today. Today, we talk about vibes that don't scale, right? Vibes don't scale. Why you need an architect, not just a coach, right? And this is not throwing any shade on coaches whatsoever. I happen to be a coach. I always have been coaching, but this is to have a different kind of conversation today. So, today there will be a focus on answering questions. So, if you have any questions, do me a favor, just cue them up in your head. I'm going to watch the LinkedIn live, and I will also be over here on YouTube. Primarily, I'm over here on YouTube. It's probably the best place where I can interact with you will be on YouTube. So maybe if I get an opportunity, I'll drop the link so then you all can have it over there on LinkedIn and can join us over here. Other than that, how's it been? Hopefully you have been absolutely amazing. You have had good things going on since the last time we've had a live. This unfiltered show started, probably over 4 years ago, right? And we were absolutely going strong, and then I decided to go get a PhD and didn't have much time. And now I'm coming back slowly, right? Scheduling a few of these things here and there to answer some questions. And I told people I'd come here just in case they want to get their questions answered, especially since I've been training a lot of people lately, and they may have questions about career stuff and just whatever you want to talk about. So that's what we kind of do here. Today, this topic is really interesting. It's one of those things where I'm really tired of the feel-good things, and I want more evidence-based techniques out there. And that's really my goal, and where we plan to take the show is focused on teams, focused on creating those high-performance teams, talking about resilience, coaching, learning agility, adaptive performance, goal setting, all those kind of things that help teams out for sure is what we will be doing as we kind of run through the show over time. But let's talk about what's been going on. There hasn't been a lot going on. I just been busy, putting YouTube shorts out, just making sure that we create that vibe there. Training, making sure that people, receive the. Matter of fact, I was training last week. I kind of put a post out on LinkedIn earlier today. Yesterday, I finally came back into the Scrum coach thing, like I was pre-pandemic, right? So that imposter syndrome thing, and I was experiencing that for a long period of time. So I wrote a post about it. Some of you all may want to dive on LinkedIn and check out that post. But, last week was really a compelling week when I trained last week, because it just kind of brought a couple things back, right? Brought some of me back that maybe I lost a little bit in the journey. But it's been good. So hopefully you all are amazing. Do me the biggest of favors. Say hi in the comments. Just say hi in the comments, right? We will get back to doing this thing on a regular basis, maybe once a month, depending on what everybody is asking for, and then just kind of go from there. Today, I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about this topic. And then once we're done, if people got any questions, great. If they don't, we will end and keep moving from there. But I just want to make sure that we take care of your needs is what I want to do. So, first things first, vibes don't scale. Let's start jumping into the information, because I think that is really probably the most important thing, at least to start off with. First thing is that things have been changing for a lot of us Scrum folks, period. And they've been changing for maybe, the better, for the worse. For some people, they definitely would classify it as the worst, but things have been absolutely changing. Now, what does that really mean in a great scheme of things? Well, here's the deal, and here's the best way I can put it to you. Over the years, we have probably in the last decade or two, there has been billions of dollars spent on the agile mindset, coaching within that, whether it's team or you want to call it agile coaching or whatever you want to call it, right? The results for that, right, has been really a slow burnout. And now that burnout is really at an all time high. And realistically, a lot of organizations' return on investment that is associated with what a lot of us do, Scrum and Agile and Safe and all those things, that return on investment is flatlining. One of the reasons why is because it's almost impossible to just coach your way out of a friction problem. And a lot of organizations have really a huge friction problem that they really don't want to address, that they're really trying to get some feel good things, or they heard about it over here and they just really don't dedicate themselves to really solving those kind of problems. So it ends up you bring in a coach, you do a few feel good things, and that's it. But then when I talk to leaders, probably if I took one role, a Scrum Master role or an Agile coach role, they would actually say, I don't understand what they do. They don't have any accountability. A lot of them would actually say that inside of organizations, which doesn't really shine the brightest of lights onto what many of us do as part of our profession, which really kind of sucks because it puts you in a peculiar situation where now you got to either prove the return on investment or live with the negative feelings there, the negative things that are happening. Because a lot of coaches in general, they just manage feelings is what they do. They facilitate, many things, but it's the feelings that are managed more than anything else. And most leaders don't really care about managing feelings. They want to see results. And realistically, architects actually manage the physics, actually deal with the friction problem. It's kind of like if your pipes are leaking, a pep talk for water really doesn't stop the flood is the problem. So the water can feel really amazing and can feel good, right? But the problem is the flood is still happening. Your pipes are still leaking. Now, I will say that in my experience, I have always found that organizations are not always willing to put in the kind of work that is necessary to change things. And that is probably part of the big problem. And then they bring folks in and they don't really take the advice or allow them to change anything. But the idea is that you should be an architect in an organization. You should be a person that is there to really drive toward results. See, the thing that's interesting is pre-pandemic, we were in a stable market, just really stable market. Yeah, there was a lot of grumblings, there was a lot of things going on, but it was really a stable market. But in stable markets, vibe is a luxury. Those vibes are really a luxury. When you have a chaotic market, when you have high entropy, lots of change happening, really architecture is the only thing that survives the stress test that we need to have within organizations. Now, some of you all may not understand there's a market correction here, right? And that market correction is what a lot of us are feeling, because what organizations are doing is they're getting rid of the feel good people. They're getting rid of them. They're laying them off. You know, there's been organization after organization after organization um, that is really pointing toward results. Like Citi said, basically, if you're a hard worker, that's cool, but you don't work here to get a grade. What they want is they want to see results. They want to see outcomes. And so the market is really deleting facilitators. They're deleting a lot of feel good coaches because feel good coaches are like plumbers that are just there to mop the floors. And what they really desire at this point is architects or basically some engineers that can fix the pipes. So the market is correcting and changing. Not to mention, you have a lot of things that can do your job anyway, right? You look at AI, you look at things of that nature, and it's having a huge impact. So this market correction is for real. It's real serious, right? And the pandemic proved a lot of things out. So how do you deal with this becomes the problem. How do you really kind of deal with this whole thing? Well, first and foremost, I think there's a distinction that you have to deal with. And that distinction is the hero philosophy that exists inside of a lot of organizations versus building in structural redundancy. This is a problem, okay? First and foremost, resilience isn't the same as grit, okay? And here's the deal. When you look at resilience, and I've done a lot of research on team resilience, resilience is really that capacity, the capacity of a system, the capacity of a team to really continue to function, continue to thrive when there is something that sets it back, when there is a disturbance of some kind. That's what resilience is all about. You know, when you have a hero, then it's hard to build in structural redundancy. It's hard to do that because here's the deal. If Bob happens to be your hero, and if your team can't function because Bob went on vacation, you really don't have you don't have a team. You actually have a dependency that's really fragile. And if something happens to Bob or Sue or whoever it is, you know, something happens in their family, they got to go, they die, they decide to find another job, you have a big issue at that point because the hero is no longer there to save you. Now, when I say hero, right, what do I mean? Right? Let's move beyond hero being someone who just will spend a bunch of time doing extra work. I'm thinking of a hero as a person who knows where all the bodies are buried in the organization, right? Well, all of them are buried, right? Which makes it easier for them to navigate the organization. And even if they don't spend their heroics in terms of time, their heroics happen in terms of how they can navigate the organization to do things that no one else seems to be able to do. This right here is truly a single point of failure, not something that you really want to have in your organization. And when you think about in what I will call an atypical architecture, an indispensable person is really a systemic problem. I would go as far as saying a biohazard, right? They are a bottleneck really masked as a high performer. So then what you have to do is you have to start having interchangeable capabilities. You have to start building in redundancy within your structures. Um, Cross training, for example, isn't a nice to have. It's a requirement if you plan to survive. So you have to deal with this and deal with it as soon as you possibly can. See, you aren't being mean by making someone expendable. You are really doing the right thing for the organization, the rest of the team. You're protecting the unit here, the team, not the individual. And a lot of people like to protect their little kingdoms, to have more job security, and that's there's no room for that anymore, right? Change is happening at such a fast pace that if you don't have that structural redundancy, you're going to have some real problems at some point. So let's kind of move on, right? And let's talk about something else that is near and dear to my heart. You have to learn how to pivot the physics that exist in the organization. And here's one of the things that is a problem for a lot of people. It has been a problem for me as well. Experience is really a collection of memories of things that they don't exist anymore. And your experience sometimes can be a weight for you, right? Seniority really drags on a concept that I call learning agility. If you don't know anything about learning agility, is your ability to navigate a world where there's novel experiences, brand new experiences happening, right? And being able truly to navigate that and be successful in those kind of environments. And how often change happens right now, you need to be in a position to be able to do that. Because that's one of those things that's going to help your team and yourself with what I call adaptive performance. And adaptive performance is the speed at which the team moves from one point to another when things start to change, when there's these shifts that happen, right? We live in a VUCA world, right? And so here's the deal. In Scrum, a lot of people will have 2 week sprints. And here's the problem. 2 week sprints could be really rigid because your culture hasn't built in the fluidity. Pivots normally happen in very small, pieces of time, right? Like 24 hours or less. You need to be fluid enough for your architecture to actually change based on the circumstances at hand. And if you're dealing with novel experiences, new things that you've never experienced before, yeah, your experience can help you a tad bit, but you are going to have to navigate the new experience. And so learning agility is one of those things that move you in that direction. But here's the deal. When it comes to a team, my research has shown that team learning agility is a dynamic capability that you can actually develop. I like that. I like that because you can sit back and not do anything, period. But think about this. Does your team have the agility to unlearn a process that made them successful in 2024, but they're currently just kind of surviving in 2026? There's something about that process that you're going to have to deal with because for some reason the market has changed and it's not like a key that's going into a lock anymore, right? And so when you start thinking about information velocity, how fast does bad news travel from, right, the pipe to the surgeon, the pipe to the architect, right? You got to start thinking about these things and dealing with these things and how fast you can pivot to those novel things. Unfortunately, your experience will not always help you with that. And so learning agility is something that you can personally develop. And also you can develop the dynamic capability as a team, right? I see Denise has left a comment, right? I noticed that most teams don't actually have a motivation problem. They have a decision structure problem. Once the system decides, execution gets lighter. I agree with that, Denise. Like, I would love to be able to show your comment to everybody, but I can't show it from LinkedIn, but I appreciate it. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add your comment from Denise, and I'll show it to everybody in just a moment if I get a good moment to be able to do that. But I'll just put from Denise here, and I'll show it to everybody. So let me just add your comment here so people can see it. But here's what I want to do. I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to show this, right? This is an amazing comment, and it's from Denise, but over in LinkedIn. So Denise Z, I'm just giving you a shout out here. You know, realistically, motivation is interesting, right? Because I agree with Denise completely. A lot of people don't have the decision rights, don't know where to truly make a decision. Agree with that totally. Execution becomes a bigger issue at that point. So Denise, you hit it right on the head. I am going to thumbs up your comment because that is super amazing. You are hitting it right on the nose because I agree with you completely. There is no ifs, ands, or buts to that. So let me take this comment down. I may bring it back up in a little bit, right? But here's the deal. We talked about two problems so far. A third one is the distinction between, well, let's just call it a commitment gap. I've been talking about this a lot lately, compliance versus commitment. The problem that you run into in today's world, especially in organizations I've been involved in, is the yes men and women, right? Your team isn't lazy. They just don't own the math. Most teams operate just for compliance sake. I do it because X, Y, and Z person told me to. Now, if you've been around the game any amount of time, you should know that commitment to a goal is something that a person got to make. And so people have to deal with what we would call the ownership of the constraint. Commitment requires the ownership of the constraint. If the team didn't architect the estimate, didn't give you the estimate, if they didn't commit to the actual deadline, they'll just try really, really hard. or what I would say, they may not even try really, really hard. They will just try, right? And that's what they will do. They'll try, right? And it may not be so hard, but they're going to try, right? But here's the problem. They're going to try and not accomplish it because they weren't really committed to it. They weren't the owner of it. So there's no constraint here. There's no ownership of the constraint. And so you have to move beyond checking boxes to actually owning outcomes. This is absolutely critical, absolutely important, okay? So if you don't do that, you're just going to run into problems. A team that really agrees to a goal is a casualty waiting to happen. A team that commits, understand, commits to a goal has already thought about and calculated the friction that they will deal with in achieving that goal. You understand the distinction there, right? You don't want a casualty. You want someone who actually commits and they've calculated what is it going to take to get from point A to point B. They calculated how they're going to deal with and all that friction that's happening along the way. So again, you got to start thinking about these things. And so here's the deal, right? How we talked about, we talked about, three things here, and I just want to review them. And then I want to go ahead and start answering questions that people may have. So please queue up and get ready to drop those questions in the comments. We talked about structural redundancy. right? That was the second thing that we talked about. Well, it was actually the first thing that we talked about. We talked about learning agility. Okay. We also talked about commitment gap, compliance versus actual commitment, and that ownership of the constraint. That's what commitment. That's what commitment actually requires. So realistically, I really do believe that you gotta move beyond vibes. You gotta get to a point where you are really building these things. You are really dealing with the friction that exists in the system. If you don't deal with the friction in the system, then all you're doing is just feel good touch points. And I told you earlier that the market is correcting. How many layoffs I'm seeing happening from large companies at this point is should be a good sign and letting you know that there's a problem that exists. Organizations aren't looking for people to come in and kumbaya with them at this point, especially as they're shifting and we're becoming more productive with the advent of AI and being able to move faster and incorporate a lot more friction, a lot more things and that we need to really accomplish. So then you got to ask yourself questions, right? How do you handle, right? How do you motivate a team that's checked out? Well, here's the deal. A team that's checked out is a problem, okay? Motivation is really a byproduct of low friction. They aren't really checked out. They are exhausted from fighting the broken architecture, the broken plumbing. Show them where the decision making is clogged. Like Denise said earlier, I'll show you again so you can see it. Let me go ahead and get my cursor over here, right? I'll show you again so you can see it. Decision structure problem. That's what a lot of folks have when it comes to motivation. So that low friction, look at the decisions, right? Look at the decisions, right? Here's the deal. If you show me where that decision making is clogged, that right there is exactly where your motivation went. That's where it poured into, okay? So the team doesn't have it anymore. It's right there, okay? Now, here's the deal. Another question that I thought about here is this. And I hate battling this. Should we use story points of hours? Okay? Should we use story points that are equal to hours? Here's the deal. Those are both things that you'll find on an odometer. Realistically, I don't care about mileage because I care about the actual destination. If your points aren't translating to systemic return on investment, you're just really counting how far you're running on a treadmill, and that's it. But you're not going anywhere, okay? So please understand that. Now, here's the deal. I want to take some time here. Usually I'm going longer than I expected, but it's about halfway through the hour, and I want to open the floor for questions that people may have. I think a lot of things are changing in the world that we're in, and hopefully you are preparing yourself for these changes. I can say to you, go get some certifications and everything else, but look, I'm going to tell you right now, I have a fundamental belief that right now, Agile, Scrum, all the stuff that I grew up doing, okay, is becoming a part of the mechanicals in an organization. It's becoming a part of the plumbing is what I will say to you, right? In the 80s, there was a big push on quality, huge push on quality, right? that big push on quality is interesting because quality became more of something that exists in the plumbing. So if you really go back to the 80s, there was a lot of people pushing quality this, quality that, quality whatever it is. But today, do you see anybody pushing quality like that? We expect quality to be built in. We expect quality to be a part of what we do. Just really that simple. Same thing is happening to us right now in the Agile space, in the Scrum space. Same exact thing is happening. And it's kind of crazy because a lot of people don't see it, but I see it as clear as day. And here's the deal. I used to say I was a futurist, but I don't say that anymore. I can't predict the future whatsoever. I can just tell you based on the data what I see happening. And I see Agile, Scrum, Kanban, these things that help us deal with a changing environment. I see them becoming a part of the plumbing. Now, if you look, help me out. Am I crazy in terms of what I'm seeing? Or are you seeing the same thing too? If you're seeing the same thing, do me a favor, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Because that's exactly what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying all the Scrum and Agile jobs go away. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all, right? But I am saying that this is changing. And I hope that you're recognizing that it's changing. I got all the things that I need to actually help with the plumbing. I've done that over time. You got to get some of the things that you need to deal with that plumbing, okay? All right, so Denise has a question. So let me go ahead and Denise, I'm going to do again. I'm going to put you over here so we can show everybody your question. And again, it'll look like it's coming from me, y'all, but I will say it's from Denise Z, so you all know that it's coming from her. And again, I can't pull over things that's on LinkedIn, but I want to make sure everybody can see it in the live. So here's another thing here. And the question really is, do you find most teams struggle more with unclear decisions or unclear decision authority? I think that most teams suffer from unclear decision authority. I'm going to say to you what I'm going to call that is decision rights. You know, you take a really simple thing that we've kind of tried to push in the Agile landscape for a long period of time. Pushing decision making, decision rights closer to the people that are doing the work. How many of you all right now can say, for the organization you're working with, or the past 5 organizations you worked with, when you look across the organization, how many teams had decision rights or knew truly what their decision rights were and didn't need to go to this person, that person, that person to really convince them of what the right answer is? Happens all the time. Okay? I've trained organizations this year that definitely have huge problems with decision rights. And so what I would say to you is decision rights is definitely the problem. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to that, but that's been the problem for the longest of times. It's been the problem for the longest of times, right? So that's something that absolutely is something that we should be architecting. That is not something that you should be coaching, because what we've been doing for the past decade is coaching around that. I say coaching around that. We've been finding ways to get clearer decisions, right? Dealing with impediments in that way. However, when you don't have decision rights, it's a different problem, right? And Denise is saying a decision authority here. You know, tomato, tomato. I'm going to say that those are roughly the same thing, right? In terms of it. So I agree with you, Denise, completely that it is what it is, right? So literally, when I say to you that the market is changing, like the pandemic really ushered in the change. Like it literally ushered in change, right? Because what it did is it empowered organizations to be able to kind of really start taking a look at the bottom line because they started incorporating these other things like AI into their organizations. And now, what do we really need versus what we don't need? And when I see layoffs, like I've seen layoffs, like this year, those hard worker layoffs, those a lot of agile layoffs. I remember last year there was layoffs from real big companies here in my local area, right? We're talking about over 1,000 people laid off at certain companies, right? I remember at one company they got rid of a bunch of agilists in general, right? So nothing here is surprising for me. It's not surprising at all, but that landscape is actually changing. The question becomes, and I'll ask you all this question: how are you preparing for those changes? How are you preparing for those changes? How are you preparing for those changes? Drop it in the comments for me, right? Help other people out here. How are you actually preparing for the changes? Be nice to know. Okay? You know, I'm doing lots of things, but part of the reason why I went to get a PhD is because I want to deal with things. I want to deal with teams in general. Deal with him because a team is a fundamental, is like the most basic unit of organization is a team, because teams get things done. So I work with teams. I work with helping teams change how they do things, right? Which will become more and more agnostic of the how we go about doing that. Okay? Whether it's agile, scrum, or something completely different. I'm doing this to go across everything, right, in the organization. So how are you dealing with this change? There are people. I'm looking at people who are been laid off, right? I had so many people reach out to me that I decided to take my land your first or next Scrum role on demand course that has 7 hours of content that I created that I normally give away to people that's come to my class, right? And I'm giving it away for free. I'm just giving it away for free. Like I have a page. I literally have a page on my website that you can just go in there and fill out your information and get connected. I'm not asking you for anything in return. Maybe what I can ask you is, if you actually have success with it, let me know so that I can let everybody else know that it's actually working as expected. So at some point I'm gonna do an intensive to help people clean up all that stuff, LinkedIn and their resumes, so then they're in a position to deal with this changing landscape. But am I crazy here? Do y'all see what I'm seeing? A lot of organizations really truly laying off people, especially agilists, especially Scrum related folks. Do you see that? Let me know. I could be the one that's wrong. Okay? On LinkedIn, on YouTube, let me know. Because it's just one of those things that I'm seeing consistently. I know somebody's going to ask me. So I'm going to, real quick, I'm going to grab the link to that on-demand course. So let me see if I can find it real quick for you guys, so then I can just drop it in the comments in case you want to utilize it. No shame, no nothing here. I just want to make sure that people get access to it. That's it. Nothing really more than that, right? So, I'm just over here having wonderful and great times, as you all know. If you know anything about me, that's what I do all the time. So let's see. Yeah, you won't be able to get access just by going straight to the course. So I actually have to send you the link, which is crazy. But I'll do that. I'm looking for it right now to grab, so then I can drop it for folks, so then you at least have it. But I gotta grab the link. So give me a second as I grab this link, so then I can just drop it, so then you all don't get upset at me. I don't want you to be mad at me at all. Well, you get mad at me. Yeah, it is what it is. I ain't tripping. Okay? I don't get into all that stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. All right. All right. I'm about to grab it. It's right here. Do do. Yeah, today I've been listening to Boys the Man. Let's see. All right. So that being said, let me go ahead and drop this here so that you have it, just in case you want to use it. Um, there you go. It's dropped on LinkedIn. I'm gonna go ahead and drop it on YouTube. Okay. Again, if you've been in my Scrum classes, anything like that, just come get it. Right? Just come get that if you need it. Um, I actually used it to clean up my LinkedIn. I used it to clean up my resume. Um, because I may decide to go, because at times when you are doing not the contracts, but the biddings for different contracts, you need a resume. So I had to update my resume as well. So it's just been one of those things where it's just like, okay, let me fix that, right? And I actually did it on my ex-wife resume and was able to get her some opportunities, right? Yeah, ultimately turned them down, but got her some opportunities by cleaning up a few things. So it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Let's see. Well, here's another good thing, and again, this is from Denise. So I think the rest of you all are being shy tonight, but that's okay. It's all good. I ain't got no problem with anybody being shy. I'm gonna be here and continue having this conversation with those that are willing to have a conversation with me. So I want to go ahead and throw something else on the actual. Oh, that's interesting. Let me try this one more time. Let's try it again. Okay. From. Okay. Let's see if that one works. All right. So another thought that came up is this, right? I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I feel like I'm preparing for that shift myself, moving from solving problems reactively to designing the structure before they appear. Um, I I don't know what else you would do. Like, here's the deal: if you don't do that, you're gonna be falling behind. I've learned how to use AI and implement it to reduce redundancy and assist in decision making to also reduce decision fatigue. Um, Denise, I use 3 different AIs every day. Like, I've increased my productivity tenfold. Like, it's ridiculous how productive I am because of adding AI as an additional thing, and I can use AI as my buddy. I be having real conversations with AI. We be back and forth. So realistically, use it to help me with decisions for sure, all day, every day. So it's just part of what I do just on a regular basis, right? So realistically, I agree with that, and I think you need to continue doing it. Don't get caught in this in the world we're in with how much disruption is happening. Do not get caught with your pants down. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself, right? It just doesn't make any sense, especially if you know better, right? And I'm only saying this to people because I'm like ringing the alarm because I see it, and there's absolutely no reason for me to not tell other people. I'm not out here competing with you and all this other stuff. No, I'm not doing that, right? So my statement is prepare yourself for this disruption, right? And then the thing that's crazy is for your resume and LinkedIn, use AI to help you. Like Like legitimately. But if you go through, I mean, Denise, there's 7 hours of videos, almost 7 hours of videos. It's not quite seven. There's almost 7 hour videos that I created over 10 modules. Like there's 10 modules in there. Like it's crazy how much information is in there, right? And I was gonna start selling it, but I'm like, I give it to Scrum Masters for free, and there's been a lot of people who's been Scrum Masters in my classes, so I'm good to go. So I got another question here. I'm gonna add this to the whatchamacallit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get y'all to start coming over to actual YouTube because I don't. This is a little hard with me putting this stuff on the other side. Because I haven't created no team for this or anything like that. I'll start rebuilding that in time. We'll see if it's a pull for it. If it's a pull for it, then it's different. Then we'll have the ability to do some of this stuff. All right, so it's just not showing everything here, but here's the gist, right? I'm an architectural draftsman from India, and I know many talented people here who want to work internationally. I'm thinking of building a team under my guidance, but I'm unsure how to approach the global market. Could you advise me on the best way to reach potential clients or partners outside of India? Cigar, if I was you, I would actually find people in India who've actually done it. The reason why I say that to you is because I have been to India. I've spent almost 2 years in India, okay, and traveled to every major city there. So I know people who from India have been really successful at making things happen here. So I'm not the best person to tell you how to do that from over there to over here. I know that we tried to do Bearded Eagle India and we failed at that. We just didn't quite get the culture right. And so I would say to you, it is better for you to find somebody who has that expertise from India who's actually done it. Okay? So I think that's a good question, but I just don't have the expertise in trying to figure out what's the best way for you to reach potential clients in the U.S. From over there. But there are people who do know how to do that. So I definitely would connect with people in India that have done it and then kind of go from there. So that's what I would do if I'm you, Cigar. Okay? So thanks for the comment there. But I'm sorry I can't be of help in terms of it because I just don't have that experience doing that, man. All right, so we're definitely going here. So good questions, and you are very welcome, Denise. Again, Denise, didn't you take my class? Did you take my class? Did you take my CSM class? Right, I think you took my CSM class, didn't you? Right. Let me see. I thought, maybe not, but I think you did. That's what I'm thinking of myself, right? I could be wrong because I've been wrong about many things, and I trained so many people. But I think that you took my class, right? So since you take my class, yeah. I don't see it here, but it's like, and even if you didn't take my class, you got it for free now. And the reason why I was thinking about did you take my classes, because I give it to the Scrum Masters, and here's the great. I give it to folks that come to my CSM and CSPO class, right? And most of them don't even log into it, like legitimately. Most of them don't log into it, and that could be that they're not really looking to do what I'm saying here, and I'm cool with that. I don't have no problem with that. I'm just trying to make sure that I have done due diligence to help people along the way. That's all I'm really trying to do. Okay? Help people along the way. This is that free stuff, right? At some point I may do some paid stuff and get more intense with it, but I was gonna actually do a yeah, you was a part of my class, Denise. Yes, I just had to validate and verify. And I'm over here like, huh? And you down here in Texas. So yes, we're good. So yeah, Denise, I started giving that away. Let's see, when did you take my class? 2021 here in Dallas. Yeah, big classes then too. So then, yeah, that was under the whole Bearded Eagle brand. But Denise, I created in 2024 that class. That no, I created that land your first or next Scrum role on demand. I created that late last year. Um, so you know, use it. use it, because if I'd have had it back in 2021, I would have gave it to you then, right? But I didn't have it then. I didn't understand then. I wasn't out there trying to figure out the change. I was just trying to survive and make sure that the company survived. Is what I was really focused in more than anything else. So it was a different time. But now, since that period of time is over, and I was, I was trying to find a couple things, so that's what I do. I actually started the PhD later on that year, in 2021. So I started the PhD in November of 2021. So it's been an interesting journey since that time. But I see that you was in the CSPO class. I'm looking at the CSPO there. But yeah, use it. I actually was going to create a 4-week intensive that would have started today. Where we was gonna spend 2 hours on Mondays and on Wednesdays. Wednesdays for the next 4 weeks, and we was gonna cover AI. We was gonna cover how to deal with the resume. We was gonna cover LinkedIn, and then it was gonna be group coaching, where I was gonna get 4 to 10 people, and we was just gonna rock through it. I think there was gonna be definitely a charge, right? But I think that the charge would have been good, because trust me, I've done amazing stuff with my resume and my LinkedIn profile. I made it look good. And now I'm about to shift and do my website the same way. I'm about to shift that to have certain things on it, because the brand I've been building, it's very interesting, right? Yeah, okay. All right. So then, Cigar, I see your comments there. You said, "Thank you for answering my question, sir. I do have strong connections here in India, yes, but there are significant legal hurdles with working abroad, permits, licensing, and I don't have a formal degree. I've studied a lot about the process." Well, then my statement to you is this, right? Partner with somebody who has the stuff that you need. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Partner with somebody. If you partner with somebody, Cigar, they can have you can have all the tools that you need to sell in the business, and they may just have the business related stuff that can help you create what you need to create, to get through the processes, help you get the working permits, the license, and they may have a formal degree, and just make them a business partner. You do that, then you'll be good to go. Yeah, no, Denise. That wasn't available back then. Denise, I wasn't thinking. Well, I think all the time, right? Um, but I had a beard, probably probably around 2022. Another alumni of Bearded Eagle actually started doing a course called Brandon Land, with PMI chapters. And I would just send people to that course, right? Because I think he does an amazing job. John Signo does an amazing job with that Brandon Land. However, my problem is I needed to help the people that specifically was coming in for Scrum related stuff and Agile related stuff and coaching related to stuff, because I was getting a lot of career changers. And because I was getting a lot of career changers, I needed to have something that could help career changers, that can help people who are trying to move up in their company, that can help people who are trying to get their first opportunity, position LinkedIn and position their resume for that. So that's what that course does. I just, this last year, I just told myself to go ahead and do it. I just told myself to go ahead and do it, and it took a lot of time to record the videos. But I think you'll get some value out of it. Just let me know how it goes for you, right? I want to see people show me the before and after. What your resume looked like before, what it looked like after, what your LinkedIn looked like before, what it looked like after, and how it is actually helping you one way or another. Okay, one way or another. So all really, 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 really majorly important. Okay. Yeah, I said this. I'm saying this late, but do me a favor. Make sure you like the event. Make sure you like the broadcast here on YouTube and on LinkedIn. I should have told you to do that at the beginning, so then they could send it out to more people, but I didn't think about that. I'll get better at that kind of stuff over time. But it's been one of those things where I really wasn't trying to grow the channel. The channel is growing now because I'm doing a bunch of YouTube shorts, and I'm having fun with the YouTube shorts. I've had shorts that have gotten over 1,000 views, which is cool for me. It makes me happy because at least some people are taking a look at what I'm talking about and what I'm doing. And what I'm talking about there is all this architect stuff. So subscribe to me on LinkedIn. I think you'll get some value out of the stuff that we talk about there as well. So I think all this stuff is goodness. I think it's all good. You rarely gonna see me complaining. Okay, I'm just happy. I'm happy to be in the position I'm in. Happy to be a doctor, board certified coach, CST, PMP, Six Sigma black belt. All those things are helpful, but I think all those things that I just told you about, yeah, most of them are just becoming a part of the plumbing, right? Yeah, I hope that I'm a big thinker. I try not to be visionary. I try to be more of the doer that you say there, right? So and then we can get it. I just didn't before. I didn't have time. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. What has helped me tremendously in terms of thinking and doing has been AI. Because just iterating through things, I need people. I need something to help me iterate through things, right? I need to be able to run experiments, run tests, do all those kind of things, right? So yeah, all these things are just part of what it is, right? But to me, it's all good times and fun, right? So any final questions as we begin the process and start thinking about slowing down and stopping this for the night, because we're gonna be running out of time soon. We're running out of time. Give you the rest of your night back. But I mean, it just is what it is. We're gonna keep doing this. I'm debating on how often I should do this. I'm thinking once a month at this point. So I will definitely schedule another one of these next month. And all the time, we will leave at least 30 minutes for people to ask questions. Because I don't, I could talk for an hour, but I don't want to talk for an hour. I'd rather skip me talking for an hour and spend an hour answering your questions, right? Legitimately. I'm here really to help you all, however I can during this time, right? If I was going to create that intensive was going to be $12.97, $15.97, or $9.97, something like that. So that's a ticket for that kind of thing, right? But here, you come here, throw in a few questions here and there. I can help you as best I can, and we can go from there. But I was going to actually do a do-it-yourself. The do-it-yourself was going to be intense. Like, it was going to literally be very intense because I was going to be like, look, I'm holding a few people's hands here to get you to the other side. So let's do it. Yeah, in 4 weeks, people would have had some real clean stuff. They'd have been very well positioned to be ready when the next opportunity happens. But we'll see. We'll see. If enough people ask me to do that intensive, I'll jump out and do it. Right? Because it will be at night, Monday, Wednesday, something like that, 6 to 8 Central, right? For 4 weeks. So, yeah, no, you are very welcome, Denise. Everyone here is welcome, right? Um, it's a pleasure for me to do it. I want to stay connected with it. I want to find a way to give back, and this is one of the many ways that I can give back. So I'm paying it forward. So just make sure that we continue to do this. I will schedule another one of these for next month. I'll have to go out and look and see what date doesn't have as many holidays on it on a Monday, but it'll be Monday at the same time, just once. Right now, this is the third or fourth Monday, but I'm just gonna find a consistent Monday to do it on, so then we can be good. So then you all know when it's coming. But other than that, y'all, here's the deal. I'm gonna say, a couple things just to kind of close out here, so we can be good to go. The thing is that what I'm doing is I'm just trying to build. Right now, I am building a tribe of 3,000 plus architects. So I'm looking for people that are tired of being the person that's mopping up the floor. I'm looking at people who want to take this architecture thing, right, and be surgical with it. I want people to understand the math of what's really truly happening so they can be prepared and float to the other side easily as I be the bridge for them. So realistically, we will continue to grow this thing. We will continue to do what we're doing. So and then on Monday nights we can have way more people in here having the conversations, helping each other. Because I don't want to just be me helping you. I want people to be helping others, right? But on that note, I'm going to say to you, this has been a pleasure. It is our time. And I will see you in the next one, which will be on a Monday, second or third Monday. We'll see. Okay? Other than that, peace. Have a good one, everybody. I really, really appreciate you. I will see you sometime soon. The doctor is out.